Starting from scratch on Instagram can be challenging. I totally get it. But just because something's challenging does not mean that it's impossible. In fact, I'm going to dedicate this entire video to telling you exactly what you should do step by step when you are trying to grow from 0 Instagram followers all the way up to 10,000 Instagram followers. So all you need to do is grab a notepad and pen because I've done all of the other hard work for you. This video is sponsored by HubSpot and I'm going to be telling you loads more about HubSpot a little bit later on. So let's get straight to it. So step 1, the first thing I want you to do is to spend some time figuring out what your value offering is. Now, don't panic if you've heard that phrase and thought, what on earth is that? I'm going to break it down for you. It's actually pretty simple. A value offering is quite literally the value that you are offering your audience through your content. Now, I like to encourage everyone to spend some time to figure out what their value offering is first. And the reason why is because it will give you focus when it comes to you actually creating and running your Instagram channel. And having a value offering is super, super important for any channel that really hopes to thrive in the future, because when you are consistently providing something of value to your audience, it becomes a lot easier for you to grow. Because if we just think about this for a second, right? Just bear with me. When people are on Instagram and they're figuring out whether or not they want to follow someone, the reason why they decide to follow someone is because they think they're going to get something of value from them. So whether they think, oh, okay, I'm going to follow this person because they're going to educate me on something, or I'm going to follow this person because they're relatable, or they're inspirational, or they're entertaining. Like, these are all forms of value that someone's going to get from someone else's content. If someone lands on your Instagram page and they're like, content's pretty, but what am I getting from this? Then they're probably not going to follow you, right? So that's why figuring out what the value is that you're going to offer your audience straight away before you even do anything else is super powerful. And if you're wondering, okay, I don't know what my value is going to be, can you give me some examples? Well, I did hint to a few previously. So the 4 most common forms of value that you can offer your audience through your Instagram content is entertainment value, so if you're really funny, inspirational value, educational value, that's what my one is, or relatable value. So when you create content that your audience looks at and they're like, oh, I feel seen, I feel heard, you know? So once you figured out what you think your value offering is going to be, I just want you to write that down. Put it on the fridge, write it in your phone, put it somewhere where you're constantly reminded so that you can ensure that from here on out, you're really focused as to what value your content is going to provide on Instagram. Okay, step number 2 is for you to tweak your profile. Now, when I talk about your profile, I like to use the analogy of a shop window. So let me break this down. So for example, you know when you're walking down the street and then you see a shop like on your left, and then you look at the shop window and then you decide whether or not you're going to go into that shop based on what the shop window looks like, right? It's a similar situation for your Instagram profile. When someone goes on your Instagram profile and they look at things like your bio, your top 9 photos or posts, your profile photo, right? They're looking at that information and they're looking at that content and they're using that as a shop window. And if they like what they see, then that's when they decide to follow you. Right? Do you see how that analogy works? So a lot of people approach their like Instagram shop window wrong. So a lot of people approach it from the standpoint of, okay, I'm gonna make this look pretty and make sure that anyone who lands on my Instagram page wants to follow me as a result of how great my shop window is. When actually we need to be flipping it and seeing it from a different perspective. So instead of trying to attract everyone from your Instagram shop window, we actually want to only attract your audience. So we don't want anyone and everyone to see our shop window and think, yeah, that seems like a bit of me. Instead, we want our specific audience to see our shop window and think, oh my God, this person gets me. This content was made for me. Like, this is going to be my new favorite Instagram channel. And how we do that is by being really targeted with what we populate our shop window with. So for example, your profile photo should be relevant or related to your niche in some way. My profile photo is just like a still shot of me smiling with like a plain background. And that really works for me in my niche because it's very professional looking. If you're in the fashion niche, then I want to see a profile photo that shows off your clothing or your style in some way. If your niche is all about homeware, then I want to see you on your beautiful couch, right? I want to see a profile photo that is related to your niche in some way and that you know your audience would look at and think, oh my God, I love that. And it's a similar situation with what's in your bio. Like, if you have a certain quirk or you like to talk about specific things and maybe you're obsessed with a certain area of pop culture, I don't know, whatever that interesting, unique thing might be, talk about that in your bio. Like, you want people to see that because people who relate to you and people who get it, if they see that in your bio, bio, they're going to think, oh my God, I love this person. And it's going to convince them to follow you so much quicker. And then also have a think about your top 9 posts. And a recent update from Instagram has made this a bit easier for all of us. So if you don't know already, you can actually pin 3 posts to the top of your Instagram grid. And that means that we can actually be really targeted with what people see when they land on our Instagram page. So my general rule is that when you're trying to figure out what 3 posts you want to pin to the top of your profile so that newbies will see it and get a good idea and a good feel for who you are, is that you want to be picking from one or all of the following options. So you want to have a post which introduces yourself so that people get to know you really quickly. And ideally you want to have a post which is just showcasing your best content. So you know that reel that you shared 4 months ago that like blew up and it's so amazing and you spent like 7 hours on it and then you're so annoyed that like no one gets to see it anymore. Well, now people can still see it if you pin it to the top of your page. And then the third option is to have a post which really encouraged some engagement. So I'm going to show you an example of one of my posts here. This was a post that I shared a while back, and essentially in the caption I spoke about the fact that I had achieved some things recently but I didn't tell anyone about them because I didn't want to sound like I was bragging. And then I went on to say that actually that's quite silly and that my community love when I share when things are going on in my life, and I realized that actually you could talk about your wins whenever you want to talk about your wins. And at the end of that caption I encouraged people to share some of their wins too, and that was a great post because I got some amazing engagement, and also anyone who saw it would see it and think, oh my God, Jade actually wants to hear from us. There's like a dialogue going on here, right? So if you've got a post like that where people have commented a lot, it's triggered a lot of engagement, that's a really great example of a post that you might want to pin to the top of your profile page. Regardless though of which post you choose to pin or what you choose to have as your top 9 posts on your Instagram page, the most important thing is that that content is relevant to your audience. So let's remember who your audience is and the value that you're trying to provide. You want to make sure that that content is relevant to your audience and is providing some value, because essentially that content is like a snippet for what's to come. So when someone's looking at your Instagram page, they want to look at it and think, oh, okay, I love what this person produces. I'm definitely going to follow them. Okay, so before we move on to step 3, I do want to take a second to talk a bit about engagement. And the reason why I want to talk about engagement is because this is a subject that's often overlooked by Instagram account holders. Whether you're new to Instagram and you're trying to grow, or whether you're trying to revive an Instagram account and get it to 10,000 followers, more often than not, we focus on growth too much and we forget about engagement. Now, this is a mistake, because if we spend as much time focusing on how to increase our engagement on Instagram than we do on how to grow on Instagram, we'll actually realize that we'll end up growing quicker. Healthy engagement leads to faster growth. So with that in mind, I have a really, really useful resource for you that you're going to absolutely love. Now, I mentioned earlier that the sponsor for today's video is HubSpot, and they have been incredibly generous and created a very comprehensive Instagram engagement report for free that you are able to download today and use it to inform your Instagram strategy. Now, the Instagram engagement report is designed to help content creators and entrepreneurs increase their engagement on Instagram by providing a lot of information and a lot of strategies across a whole wide range of topics. For example, the guide covers best practices for using tags for Instagram posts, engagement trends for types of Instagram posts and stories, and their very best Instagram growth tactics as well, which will be very relevant to anyone watching this video because, of course, we are trying to grow from 0 to 10,000 followers on Instagram. Now, this isn't all that they cover. They actually cover loads more, and I personally found the whole section on when you should be posting on Instagram very interesting and very insightful. It's backed up by so much data, and it actually led to me changing my strategy ever so slightly. So I definitely recommend checking out that part. So if you're ready to download the guide, which I'm willing to bet that you are, head to the link in my description so that you can get your hands on their Instagram engagement report for free. Okay, so step number 3, it's time for your Instagram content strategy. Now, I've got good news for you here. This is actually the time for you to be super creative and really free, right? Because you're fresh to Instagram, or at least you're coming at Instagram with a fresh perspective. So now's the time for you to really experiment and to try different styles and different format of content. If you're stuck for where to get started, follow these steps. So first of all, you want to make sure that you've immersed yourself in your niche. This is very important, and you'll be surprised at how many people don't do this and they don't even realize that they've not done this. Let me give you an example. I have a personal Instagram account that I use for like my friends and family, right? And there is nothing on that Instagram account that is related to my niche. Nothing. It's all pop culture and fashion and homeware and like wedding stuff because I'm getting married, right? There is nothing to do with like Instagram marketing or content creation or business or entrepreneurship. Nothing. thing. I had to make an active effort to immerse myself in content related to my niche when I first started my brand, right? And that's what I recommend that you do too. By immersing yourself in your niche on Instagram, you'll open yourself up to different types of content, different formats, different trending audios that people are using. And whilst I don't want you to copy any of this stuff, what I do want you to do is to save it to a designated folder. And you can call this folder anything you want, like content ideas or anything like that. And I just want you to get in the habit of saving your favorite content ideas, the most eye-catching, the most relevant, the best editing, whatever it might be, your favorite content from your niche into that folder. And then when it's time for you to sit down and for you to plan your content for the following month, I want you to revert back to that folder as your source of inspiration. Now, there are two other key elements for you to think about when it comes to your content strategy. One is your posting frequency, and the other one is the format or the type of content that you're going to be sharing. When it comes to your posting frequency, what I'm going to need you to do is to post daily. And I know you don't really want to hear that, but you know, I'm not here to please. I'm just here to give you the cold, hard facts. And the fact is that posting daily on Instagram will put you in a good position when it comes to your ability to grow, but also your ability to figure out what content is working. Because we're trying to be a bit fluid, a bit creative, we're trying different things here. In order for us to actually get to grips with what is working, we need to be sharing a lot of content. So I'm going to want you to post daily. And in regards to the format of the content that you should be sharing, if you are trying to grow, which I know you are, you want to be upweighting the number of reels that you're sharing. Now, I'm not going to tell you to only post reels, because at the end of the day, photos, carousels, they can still work for a lot of creators. But the way Instagram works fundamentally is that it is powered by a set of different algorithms. And the algorithm which powers your reels is designed to get your reels content in front of a new audience. So Instagram is quite literally trying to push your reels out to new people, which means that when you share reels, you are more likely to reach more people than if you share any other form of content. There are obviously exceptions to this rule, but if we're talking from a broad perspective, you are probably going to have better results when it comes to reach and growth from posting more reels than you would from posting anything else. So for that reason, I want you to upweight the amount of reels that you're posting. Roughly 80% or more of your content should be reels. Okay, so let's move on to planning your content, because you've got a bank of ideas now. You know how often you're going to post, you also know what format you're going to be posting in, but now you need to plan what content you're actually going to be creating. And when you're doing this, I want you to think about a couple of things. The first is, remember what that value is that you said you were going to give your audience, because that kind of needs to be there for almost all of your content. So if you said that the value you're going to be providing is entertainment value, think about that. When you're creating your content, how are you going to make what you're producing entertaining in some way? Having this focus just means that our content is going to land a lot better, and it's really, really going to help us grow, because our content will be so valuable that people won't be able to help themselves. They'll just have this dying need to follow you, because they're going to need more of your valuable content. Now, the other thing to think about is to do with your ideation. So head back into that folder that we created, go through it, think of some content ideas, and I want you to start writing them down. Just write a list, okay? And once you've got at least 1 week worth of content ideas, ideally you want a bit more than that, because this whole thing could be a bit overwhelming. But at the very least, you've got 1 week of content ideas mapped out, which means at least 7 posts mapped out already. You then want to schedule it into some form of calendar. I have clients who map out their content using their actual calendars, like physical calendars or their Outlook calendar or their Google calendar, right? And I also have clients who literally will just assign days to the different content that they want to create in their notepad. Whatever route works for you, you just want to make sure you've got clarity of what is going to be going out when. Okay, it's step 5. This is one of my favorite steps because it's all about batching. So this is the step where you actually start creating your content, and I want you to create your content in batches. Okay, that is essentially what content batching is. It's when you sit down and you produce a bunch of content in one sitting. Now, the reason why batching your content is super effective, especially for people who are new to Instagram, is because it means that you're able to benefit from this thing called flow state. And your flow state is essentially what you get into when you are doing one task. So you know when you're like fully immersed into one task, it means that you're able to produce really high quality work and also a huge volume of it. That's basically what flow state is, and that is why batching works so well. So when it comes to batching, what I want you to do is to allocate some time. So make sure there's no distractions, put your phone on like silent mode, make sure you don't have any meetings or calls, etc. Allocate a good chunk of time, a few hours, to completing one form of content. So if you've decided that part of your Instagram content is going to be you speaking to the camera, then make sure that you set time aside to batch all of your reels where you're speaking to the camera. If you decided that you were going to create some quotes as part of your Instagram content, then set some time aside to create your batch of quotes. Same goes for carousels, same goes for photo shoots, etc. You just want to make sure that when you're creating your content, you're creating one format of content in one go. All right, let's move on to step 6, which is all about scheduling. So you've batched all your content. Well done, I'm very proud of you. Now it's time for you to schedule it all out. Now I use an online scheduling tool to schedule all of my content, and there are a bunch of different tools that you can use. Just have a quick Google and I'm sure you're gonna find some that you'll like. I'll put a link to the ones that I've used previously in the description below. But essentially you're looking for a tool which will allow you to upload all of that incredible content that you've just batched, but also to write captions for the content that you've just batched too. Now the reason why this works super well is because it means that you can avoid that really annoying moment when you've got the content, you're ready to post, but you can't think of a caption, right? I think we can all relate to that moment where you're like, oh my God, I do not know what to write, and then you end up not posting at all because you just feel flustered and frustrated, right? We don't want that to happen. And how we avoid that happening is by writing all of our captions in a batch and uploading them to our scheduling tool so that we don't have to think about what to write for our caption when it comes time to post. Okay, step 7 is kind of linked to step 6. But I'm still gonna give it a separate step name. Okay, step 7 is all about contextualizing, right? So what this step is all about is essentially ensuring that Instagram understands what your content is about as quickly as possible. Because we're either starting a fresh Instagram account here or we're like reviving an Instagram account. But either way, in order for us to reach that 10,000 follower mark, we really need to ensure that Instagram knows what our content is about. Because if Instagram doesn't know what our content is about, then it won't know who to share it to. So let me break this down. One of the quickest and most effective ways for us to really grow on Instagram is when Instagram shares our content with other people. So you know the explore page, or like, you know when you're on the homepage and sometimes you see suggested posts from people who you don't follow, right? That is all being powered by Instagram. Instagram is sharing that creator's content out to new people. And if you get in front of a new audience, then you're going to increase the chances of you gaining some new followers, right? So how do we get Instagram to share our content to people? Well, the only way that Instagram is going to do that is if they understand who our content should be shared to. And for them to understand who our content should be shared to, they need to know what our content is about. So if our content is about fashion, Instagram needs to know that so that it shares it with people who are interested in fashion, etc, etc. You get what I mean? So how do we get to a place where Instagram can understand what our content is about? How do we contextualize our content? Well, there's 2 main ways that we want to do that. The first way is by using really relevant descriptive hashtags. So when you're batch writing your captions and all that kind of stuff, you want to make sure that you're adding between 3 to 5 hashtags per post. And I want you to use hashtags that are really relevant to your content. So I don't want you to use like hashtag explore because that is so vague and anyone can use that. You want to use a really specific hashtag like hashtag Japanese street style, right? Very, very specific. The other thing that you need to do is write descriptive captions. So people like to sleep on captions because they're like, nobody reads them, blah, blah, blah. Instagram reads them. Instagram is reading your captions and they're using your captions to try and figure out what your content is about. So if your content is about street style, then use the word street style in your caption, right? It really is as simple as that. Step number 8, is this 8? Yeah, 8. Okay, so this is the final step because you've done most of the hard work. Like you've got all your content scheduled, you've already written all your captions, it's all contextualized, you've got a strategy, like your profile looks great, like you've achieved a lot. I'm very proud of you. Now, the final step is to supercharge your growth. I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. I'm just gonna give you the top 3 growth tactics. These are the most effective growth tactics. If you engage in at least one of these growth tactics on a regular basis, you will see growth in your account, okay? So the first major growth tactic is for you to go live with someone else or with multiple people. So you can go live with up to 3 additional people at a time on Instagram at the moment. I'm sure they'll probably change that to make it more people at some point, right? When you go live with someone else, something very special happens. And what that is that everyone's audience on that live, so if there's 3 of you on the live, all of your Instagram followers will get a notification saying, forgetting that you're going live. And that means that if you go live with someone else, you can end up speaking to a whole audience of people who do not follow you yet. This is a great opportunity for you to get in front of a new audience, sell yourself a little bit. I don't want you to do a pitch, but you know, show up as your best self. Make sure that you're talking about the value that you provide on your content, because that's a really great opportunity for you to get some new followers onto your account. The second major growth hack is for you to collaborate with another creator and to actually co-create a post. Now, there's a feature on Instagram which allows you to upload a post and it appear on 2 channels at the same time. Now, this post literally is a shared post. So anytime your audience comments on the post, it will appear. Anytime the other creator's audience comments on the post, it will also appear. So it's a shared post. And what this means is that, again, your content's going to get in front of a whole nother audience. Now, something to bear in mind when you're using both of those growth tactics is that it works best when you're collaborating with someone or you're going live with someone who has a similar audience to you. So ideally their audience is one who would be interested in the type of content that you talk about, right? And the third and final major growth hack for you is for you to cross-promote your Instagram channel on another social media channel. Ideally, another social media channel that gets a lot of reach. For example, TikTok. I think we all know that you can reach a lot of people on TikTok. You can reach far more people with a fresh TikTok page than you probably can on any other social media platform. So if you have a TikTok account already, talk about your Instagram channel that you've just launched. Incentivize it too. Like, give people a reason to follow you on Instagram. I often see people do this thing where, say they're like a comedy creator on TikTok, they will put a comment under their TikTok saying, oh, the bloopers for this skit are on my Instagram story. So they're incentivizing people actually coming off of TikTok, going onto their Instagram account, looking at their content and hopefully following them. So that's a really clever way to do it. And also there's other channels like Pinterest, for example, which are great for reach. Cross-promote your Instagram channel on a channel like Pinterest and you'll end up getting a lot more eyeballs onto your Instagram channel. And that is truly what's going to help you grow. Okay, that's it from me. Those are all the steps that you need to follow to get from 0 to 10,000 on Instagram. If you feel like hanging around a little bit longer, I recommend watching this video. It's all about the top Instagram mistakes that people are making, which is massively hurting their growth and their engagement. Also, do not forget to head to the link in my description to check out HubSpot and to download your Instagram engagement report. Thank me later. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in my next video.